Okay, we're 1 week into the new year. I hope it's treating you well. Happy New Year for those that didn't catch last week's show. We're now at episode 188 with Career Growth Made Easy, and today's show, Finding New Perspective in the New Year. I hope that sounds like something that would interest you because I've got a great story to share, and I think it will help you take a look at 2024 in a new light, in a new way, kind of refresh your thinking and open up your visions for improved success. Please join me. I was an engineer and in 2008 lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I've helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Happy New Year once again, and welcome to 2024. I'm Craig Ansell, your host, and this is the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. You know, New Year's just happened, and some of us are still coming down from that high, from that celebration. Can't believe it, but we're into another year. Hopefully, we're leaving COVID and other illnesses like that, pandemics behind us, and starting out fresh for 2024. Last week's show was a great one. How to earn more in 2024. How to get a raise, or tips to get a raise. If you didn't listen to 187, I strongly advise that. And then also today's show will be a nice compliment. You can listen in either order. For 188, we're talking about finding new perspective in the new year. I thought that was kind of a catchy title. You know, the show's title came to me after I had attended Podfest. That's something that happens for many of us podcasters once a year, and in my case, I live in Central Florida. In fact, my hometown is Winter Springs. Although I've been here 30 years, there's nothing wintry about Winter Springs. We might get down into the 50s or 60s, but rarely do we ever see any signs of winter, let alone snow. But that's a side note. Podfest came back to Orlando last year, January 23, and we'll be going back again in January of 24. As I attended the show, there were a number of great speaking events. Some were, small rooms, standing room only, and others were larger auditorium-based rooms. As I built out my agenda on their application and then basically was able to follow my tracks and get reminders on their app of what I was planning to attend, some of which had conflicts, and I had to decide what exactly am I going to see, what's most important to me. I started to listen to some of the speakers give their tips, their advice, their techniques. Some of them called them secrets to success. And I noticed something interesting. There started to be a familiarity about one or more of those events that I attended, those speaking events. And then I started thinking, wow, I'm having a deja vu moment here. I think I remember this from the prior year or years. Did I attend this event before? As they continued to speak in this one example, I started to recall what they spoke about and what was going to be next. So I wrote down on my notepad. I still keep a physical notepad. I just enjoy taking those type of notes. I wrote down on my notepad what I think some of their future information is going to be at the remainder of that speaking event. And sure enough, they went into some of those topics. I was able to pull up through the modern technology use of my phone. You got it. I'm really advanced with tech. I was able to pull up my notes last year, and I happened to use Google Drive, not that that matters, and see who I met with, what speaking engagements or titles that I attended, and what side conversations I had. I keep pretty thorough notes. And yes, it turns out I had been to the same exact show, the same exact speaking event last year, and perhaps another time before. What I found curious, though, was, and that's really what the basis of today's show is about, finding new perspective in the new year. I did not take the time to review last year's notes before making my selections for what speaking engagements, what meetings I was going to attend for 2023. I found it funny that I was still interested in the same topics, the same content, even though I had attended the course the prior year. So sitting there and watching what was happening and processing in my mind, what did they say last year? How is this year going to change, if any? Do they expect new audiences each year? What am I expecting? I came to the realization for today's show, Finding New Perspective in the New Year. How am I going to apply what I learned last year? How am I going to apply that from today going forward? How did I apply what I learned in the beginning of 2023? Then it hit me. They're going to go over a list of probably 8 or 10 recommendations that you should do, let's say, to grow your podcast in my case, or to broaden your listener base. Because we all want to do that. These free podcasts are great ways to get information out that's useful both in your personal and your professional lives, hopefully growing your job, growing you in your job, growing you in your career. And I really enjoy giving back, so I hope you do too. But that leads me back to how to grow my podcast, either in listenership, downloads, or broaden my topics, broaden my reach and range. So I looked up the list from 2022, I believe it was, and I took a step back while they were speaking, kind of just, pulled myself out of the audience and was just kind of hovering there in my mind. And I said, how many of these things did I actually accomplish or attempt to accomplish? The point being, no matter how much or how lengthy the distance was between the two events, in this case it was close to a calendar year, as Podfest happens to come to Central Florida, in fact, Orlando, on an annual basis in January. I started to look at it differently, and I said, how much of these things did I truly try to accomplish? How many things were in my mind, my thoughts? How many true actions did I really take? Physical actions that are noteworthy, that I can document and say, I made a real honest effort to achieve these things. And I was really surprised. It took some analysis, some, self-searching, soul-searching to say, can you really call that done, Craig? Was that really an honest effort? Did you achieve what you were trying to do? Did you achieve what the speaker set out as targets, as goals? And I think I either got 7 or 8 out of the 10 items they recommended completed. Some of them were easy to do, such as recording podcasts on a regular basis and releasing them on a regular basis to be consistent with your audience so that you had consistent followership and listenership. And I'm happy to do that. And I think I might have missed one Monday, and I can't remember if that was due to my timing or a technical issue, but we got the episode out shortly thereafter. So in a 1-year period, we had 50 plus, episodes out of the 52-week year that were on track and success. So I call that a win there. I am not looking for perfection, although I strive for it, as you should, but you can't always be perfect. So we'll strive even harder to make it 100% for 2024. Getting ahead of our shows, getting ahead of our recordings. But then looking at the 2 other items or 3 other potential items that were still open, I was wondering what stopped me from achieving those. And more so, instead of putting myself down, saying that you failed, you did not achieve, or worse yet, I was a failure. And that's something we need to talk about. You and I are not failures just because you failed to achieve something, failed to complete something, or failed to even attempt it. Excuse me, it is about the action failed. The attempt at the action failed. You and I are not failures. Otherwise, we can go down a really negative, dark spiral, putting ourselves down, self-loathing, unsatisfaction with ourselves, dissatisfaction with ourselves, and we don't want to do that. So you tried, you failed. Try and try again until you achieve. If that's not the right activity for you, if it's not the right process, the right goal, the right vision, switch gears, switch paths. But only you can decide that where you are in your walk of life for your personal needs as well as for your professional needs. So going back to those, 2, 2.5, 3 items that I did not complete or potentially attempt at achieving, I listened intently as the 2023 January Podfest speaker continued. And they went on to say, believe it or not, it kind of gave me self-validation. I don't know if you can kind of hear me. I'm smiling a little bit. I know you can't see me at the moment, but it gave me self-validation. I said, now last year I spoke on these same topics, but I didn't want to come in here dry and stale and repeat myself. For any of you that attended last year and you've come back, thank you. And I was one of those people waving, raising my hand, supporting, in support. But then there were others that were new to podcasting, maybe don't even have a show yet or an idea for a title or a concept or a niche, a group of people that you want to support and uplift. And so they said, On these couple areas here, I've decided to change my ways. Society has changed, technology has changed, and last year I recommended these three things, and they kind of showed them up on the board there on the overhead, and they match my notes as you'd expect. But then they kind of they struck through them and just crossed them out and said, and here's what I'd recommend we go for 2023 and beyond, because trend setting has changed, interests and listenership have changed, followers have changed, and we're going to move into these three new directions. And so, as it turns out, had I done those 2 or 3 open action item things to get to close to 100% success, no problem. It would have been great to check them off my task list, if you will. But turns out it didn't matter. A year later, those 2 or 3 things weren't as important as they had been up to that point. And society, social media, podcasting, YouTubing, all that has changed. And so they recommended different approaches, different techniques. I was able to copy down those 2 or 3 items that had changed and move forward with that direction, with that pathway. The biggest takeaway for me, and that I'm trying to impart to you, my valuable listener, is that year after year, we may approach the same trainings, or maybe monthly, it may be biannually, whatever the case may be. You approach the same trainings, the same areas of growth. You try to improve, you try to achieve. But we can become stale if we attempt and don't succeed, right? What if we don't attempt at all and just keep it on our list? Our to-do list, I jokingly said in a prior episode, it needs to be called our task list. And there's an entire episode on that and why. You should listen into that show, checking out your task list, all right? Removing stress from your life. But it's the message today is about any stories you have, anything you feel you can, have repetition in your mind. What has recurred in your mind with regards to training, special activities, growth, attending supervision, leadership conferences? Is there some type of education, some kind of special enrichment that you're interested in? Is it in the form of hardcover, softcover books, old school books? Is it in the form of ebooks you can download, study, and learn? How about podcasts such as this one, YouTube shows? Then there's TEDx talks. And there's even I've been out for a few years. I want to say it is edx.org. I talk about that in one of my other shows, but it's a great way to get free college level and university level education. You won't receive, obviously, the diploma because you're not paying, nor will you receive true credits for attending the coursework, but you'll be able to learn from top universities and colleges such as Harvard. And they contribute this information for free so you can take these classes online to better yourself. That's edx.org, and I'll make sure of that. If not, I'll put a note in the show notes if it's something different. But again, regardless of what it is, how are you looking at things differently in 2024, finding new perspective for the new year? I happen to have a reflection moment there, and that in 2023, January, I started to realize that deja vu moment, and in fact, it was real. And I shared that with you today. I opened up and I was transparent. Is there anything going on in your life that you feel that has happened to, either recently or years ago, and you maybe feel you're stuck in a rut? Maybe you failed to achieve something. You failed to advance. Was your schedule too aggressive, too assertive? Did you try to accomplish too much in too short a time period? Maybe it wasn't trying to accomplish too much, but you had too much on your plate. You had unexpected workloads added. You had unexpected tasks added, projects that you weren't planning, whether it's for your personal and or your professional, your business life. When we get overloaded, we can shut down mentally, physically, and for those of you with faith, we can shut down spiritually. No one is perfect. So we have to kind of look at things and take things in a tempered way. We have to balance them with reality. I listened to Craig on this podcast and it was outstanding and he's going to help me find a new perspective. And starting today, I'm going to read a new book every day. Well, if you haven't been reading books in the past, that's an ambitious goal and you're likely to fail because it's something you haven't worked up to. Maybe you start reading a book a month or every 3 months. And that's not enough, Craig. I won't learn enough. Heck, if you read one book every 3 months, every quarter, at the end of the year, you'll have read 4 books you never intended to read before this show. So whatever your method of training, self-education, self-improvement, whatever it is, could be in the form of exercise, dieting, learning things, coaching, education, reading, if I didn't say that, special hobbies, trade skills, whatever it is, Do it on a step-by-step basis. The only way that we can attack things and win is by attacking them the same way you would if you were to eat the virtual elephant. It's so big, it's daunting, it's overwhelming, weighing thousands of pounds. How would you eat that virtually? Step by step, bite by bite. Break down anything that's overwhelming into bite-sized, actionable pieces, and that's where you can find new perspective in the new year to accomplish things that have been daunting you, maybe even haunting you, and causing you concern, fear, being scared, anxiety, overwhelm. Break it down into bite-sized pieces, actionable pieces, and a reasonable time frame to pursue them. If you don't have any interest in actions right now or ways to improve, take a step back a year ago. Where were you with your performance reviews? Where were you with your education? Have you advanced? After you've taken the various trainings, reviewed the various guidance from your supervision or management, or from friends, or from family members, have you decided to take a new path, a new route? What has changed in your life for the better? What maybe has changed in your life for the worse, or has become stable or neutral? The last thing we want to do is become complacent, because when we become complacent, we can feel that we get bored. Complacency can lead to challenges in our life that we weren't expecting, right? Complacency can lead us to feeling comfortable, and when we're too comfortable, we can just settle in for the ride, not looking ahead to the horizon, not looking ahead with vision, with the opportunities for growth, the drive to polish our strengths, improve upon our weaknesses, look for any opportunities, or even consider what threats there might be in our work life in the sense of people looking for your job to perform it better than you can. If a promotion opportunity comes up, do you have other people that are going to compete against you? They're not physical threats, but they're threats to that position, because if there's only one role, not more than one person can fill it. So, with the close of today's show, 188, Finding New Perspective in the New Year, I hope you've enjoyed my story and a little bit walk down a different path of how you could look into the new year with a different view, a different vision. I'd appreciate your comments, your feedback, and leaving a review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever player you use. You can contact me on social media at Craig Ansell. That's Facebook, Meta, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as directly by email, craig@craigansell.com. I appreciate you as my listener. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 188. God bless you. Happy New Year, and I will catch you next week with a fresh, hot, new show. See ya. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ansell on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.